What just happened was absolutely heartbreaking. There's no other word for it. Devastating. The kind of loss that punches you right in the gut. The Golden State Warriors saw the wind slip through their fingers in the final second of the game. One final shot. One single decisive moment. The scoreboard read 114 to 111, and just like that, everything changed. That shot didn't just steal a win. It shook the entire season. Now, with only 2 regular season games left in this 2025 campaign, things have gotten dangerously tight in the Western Conference standings. This was a game they simply couldn't afford to lose. Playing on the road against San Antonio, with playoff positioning on the line, there was no room for error. And yet, they let it slip. The race in the West is intense, and every single game feels like a playoff battle. After the chaos that unfolded on April 9th, the Warriors are clinging to the 7th seed. Barely. Just hanging on. They're technically still in the mix, but they've left themselves with very little margin for mistakes. The idea was to stay ahead, to avoid the play-in chaos, but now that goal is hanging by a thread. And here's the deal. It's not just about who they're playing anymore. The Lakers? The Nuggets? The Clippers? They're no longer the immediate threat. Now it's about survival. It's about that potential elimination game against the Timberwolves. Lose that one, and boom, you're either done or facing the Kings or Mavericks next. And let's be honest, does anyone feel totally confident going into a win-or-go-home matchup like that? Sure, the team has shown they can hang with just about anyone on any given night, but when it's down to a single game and the shots aren't falling, it becomes a brutal coin flip. That's what the NBA is at this point. You hit your shots, you survive. You don't, you're out. That's why this last loss stings even more. This was overtime basketball they didn't need. It was stress, energy, and momentum wasted. Sloppy possessions, careless turnovers, missed defensive rotations. All of that played into San Antonio's hands. And the Spurs? They were ready. They had shooters all over the floor, locked in and waiting. The Warriors started strong, too. They came out hot, took control in the first quarter, and built a solid 9-point lead. They looked focused. They looked ready. But by halftime, that lead was gone, and they were suddenly trailing by 4. Still, they managed to flip it back. They fought, took the lead again, and opened a 12-point cushion in the final quarter. 12 points. That should have been enough. But it wasn't. They collapsed at the worst possible moment, and the game slipped away, again, in the final second. The roller coaster of that game perfectly sums up the Warriors' season. Bursts of brilliance, followed by inexplicable lapses. That inconsistency is what has put them in this play-in mess to begin with. And after the game, you could feel the weight of it all in the post-game interviews. One of the team's key players stepped up to the mic and didn't sugarcoat anything. He knew how crucial this game was, what was at stake, and how costly the loss could be. He talked about resilience, about the importance of bouncing back, and how championship-level teams find ways to rise when it matters most. But even he couldn't ignore the ticking clock. Time is running out. Fast. We're down to 2 games left in the regular season. That's it. 3 playoff spots are already locked up, and other teams aren't slowing down. In fact, a couple of them are on hot streaks right now. One franchise even made a coaching change recently, desperate for wins, and it actually worked. They just picked up a victory that boosted them in the standings. Another team notched a crucial win too, jumping ahead of Golden State, all because of that extra loss the Warriors just took. Now, they're chasing teams instead of being chased. And while all that's happening, the Timberwolves are getting ready for a huge clash with the Grizzlies, a game every Warriors fan should have circled. If Minnesota wins, they could vault back into the 6th seed, putting even more pressure on the Warriors. But here's the thing. Golden State no longer controls its own destiny. That's the brutal truth. They had a shot, a real shot, to take matters into their own hands, and they blew it. Now, they need help. They need other teams to lose. They need luck. And that's the exact situation every team wants to avoid at this point in the season. That's what makes this so frustrating. With 3 games to go, they knew what had to be done. Went out, and they would dodge the play-in. Simple. Handle business, and you're in. But instead, they fumbled the bag against San Antonio. And now, things get way more complicated. Not only do they have to beat 2 very competitive opponents, but they also need other games to swing their way. And the worst part? They've struggled all season against these very same teams. Their next game is against Portland, a team that's been trending in the right direction lately. The Trailblazers have been showing signs of life, and this isn't going to be an easy matchup. On top of that, there's another squad looming, one that's been climbing the standings thanks to one particular player stepping up in a big way. There's just so much to unpack from where the Warriors stand right now. And yet, despite everything, two veterans on the squad rose to the occasion in the last game. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. These guys showed why they're still among the league's elite. Steph was practically carrying the team, dropping 30 points and doing everything he could to keep them in the fight. He was hitting from deep, breaking down defenses, drawing contact, all the usual Curry magic. Butler, on the other hand, was pure efficiency. He only took 8 shots, but still managed 28 points. That's wild. He went 5 for 8 from the field, hit both of his 3-point attempts, and lived at the free throw line. These two came ready. They understood the assignment. But the rest of the squad? Not so much. The supporting cast failed to show up when it mattered. The 3-point shooting was rough. Nobody else could get hot. Decision-making was shaky. Key moments were wasted. And when you have your two leaders putting up performances like that, it's frustrating to see the rest of the team fall flat. Looking back at that performance, it's clear the Warriors just couldn't find their rhythm when it came to shooting. Their 3-point percentage sat at a disappointing 38%, and on a night like that, it's just not going to cut it. You can't expect to win in this league when you're barely connecting from deep, especially when your opponent is playing with the kind of fire San Antonio brought to the court. The Spurs came out hungry. They played with energy, purpose, and a chip on their shoulder. Nearly every starter on that team contributed at least 20 points, and guys like Castle, Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, and Dion Vell made their presence felt from start to finish. It wasn't just about individual plays. They completely outshot Golden State from long range and out-hustled them for most of the night. This game could have gone differently. It should have gone differently. But certain Warriors players just didn't show up. When your key pieces underperform, especially in crunch time, the whole team feels the impact. And we have to talk about one guy in particular, the one who's been so clutch in recent games. He's been stepping up, knocking down threes, and providing that second scoring punch behind Curry. But this time, he vanished. Just 3 makes in 11 attempts. 1 for 5 from beyond the arc. That's just not good enough, not when the stakes are this high. And the frustrating part is we know what he's capable of. We've seen it. Over the past 10 games, he's been shooting threes at nearly 50%. That's elite-level efficiency. But when the pressure mounted in this one, he couldn't find his shot. Maybe it was nerves, maybe it was fatigue. Whatever it was, it hurt the team badly. If he wants to be a reliable second option heading into the postseason, that kind of inconsistency has to go. You can't afford to disappear in key games. Not now. Then there's Kuminga. He had some decent moments, but when you look at the numbers, his impact was a net negative. Every time he was on the floor, the team fell behind. That -16 differential while he was playing, that's alarming. It shows how much the Warriors depend on their core guy, number 30, to steady the ship. Everything this team does revolves around Steph Curry. He's the engine, the heartbeat, the reason they're even in this conversation. Without him, it all falls apart. And he's doing everything. He's hitting threes, attacking the paint, drawing fouls, grabbing rebounds, and setting up teammates. He's carrying the load night after night. The problem is he's not getting enough help. His supporting cast just hasn't matched his level of urgency or execution. That's the bottom line. And now, they're paying the price. Only 2 games remain. 2 chances to turn this around. One of the players almost managed a triple-double in the last game. Solid numbers, sure, but even that wasn't enough. Another guy hit 4 out of 10 from deep, which looks fine on paper, but when you zoom out, it didn't tip the scales. One more couldn't buy a 3-pointer to save his life. Another finished 3 for 11 and just 1 for 7 from 3. Even though he played hard on defense and crashed the boards, it wasn't enough. The Warriors need more than effort right now. They need results. They need scoring. They need poise. They need shooters who can actually knock down shots when it counts. Because right now, outside of Curry and the occasional Butler outburst, it's not happening. And that's why the situation feels so disheartening. Golden State is now depending on other teams to lose. They've lost the power to control their own fate. And for a team with their pedigree, that's a tough pill to swallow. What could change in these final 2 games? That's the big question. So many variables, so many moving parts. The Grizzlies are prepping to face the Timberwolves, another critical showdown. And after that, they've got the Nuggets lined up for Friday. That's a brutal back-to-back for Memphis. And if you're the Warriors, you're watching both of those games like your season depends on it. Because it does. And then, of course, there's the final matchup against the Mavericks. That game might decide everything. Not just for Golden State, but for multiple teams in this wild Western race. The Dubs will need the Grizzlies to drop at least a couple of those games. They'll need the Timberwolves to slip as well. And if that's not enough, they'll also be hoping that whoever the Grizzlies face last, whether it's the Jazz or the Nets, manages to pull off an upset. It's a lot to ask. It's a lot of hoping. But that's where they're at. Golden State is no longer in the driver's seat. They're passengers in a playoff puzzle with too many pieces out of their control. And sure, anything can still happen. This is the NBA, after all, but the reality is sobering. They had a path, they had the map, and they veered off course. Still, it's not over yet. What they can control is what happens in those final 2 games. And those games? They've got to be wins. No ifs, no buts. Just get it done. And it won't be easy. The Blazers have been picking up steam and will be looking to play spoiler. The second game? That one could be against a team that's fighting just as hard, maybe harder, for a spot. The pressure is at a boiling point, and every possession will matter. There's still hope. There's still time, but just barely. The Warriors need to lock in, clean up the mental mistakes, and start playing with the desperation of a team that understands what's at stake. Because the fans? They feel it. You can see it on social media, here on the streets. Everyone knows this team should be better. Everyone knows they've got the talent. But talent only gets you so far. It's time for execution. Time to stop talking and start delivering. There's no more room for learning curves. No more cushion. It's win or suffer the consequences. And for a franchise that's tasted the top, anything less than a playoff run would feel like a collapse. Let's see what they're really made of. This isn't just about locker room dynamics. League insiders point to a shift in the Warriors' internal culture, driven by emerging young talent and front office recalibrations. With the team battling to stay relevant in a hyper-competitive Western Conference, some speculate Green sees the writing on the wall. The dynasty is fading, and the time to pivot is now. Teams around the league, particularly contenders seeking veteran grit and championship mettle, are watching closely. Should Green indeed part ways with Golden State, it would be a seismic moment in NBA history. The departure of the Warriors' emotional engine, the player who barked orders, dived for loose balls, and guarded everyone from centers to point guards, would mark the end of an era. And while fans in the Bay Area may feel bittersweet, the league at large waits with bated breath. Draymond Green, it seems, is ready to turn the page. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.